No emotion exists within a vacuum. Rage, grief, love, all of the emotions that exist along the spectrum of humanity's feelings require some base, some catalyst to come to exist and be expressed in the way that they are. Oftentimes, when we as people are deprived of having emotions like this expressed to us, we lash out or overindulge in certain feelings. So what do you think would happen if you deprived someone of love, affection, care, and intimacy for 16 long years, and then all at once flooded them with a life that held everything they ever dreamed of? What would happen if you placed someone who never had a mother in the clutches of Makima? Today, I will be diving into Denji as a character and the circumstances surrounding his life in order to explain exactly why I find his attachment towards Makima and obsession with women in general funny on the surface, but deeply disturbing and saddening when putting the actual happenings under a microscope. Anyone even remotely familiar with Chainsaw Man and Denji as a character should be aware of just how bad his life truly was. Raised without a mother and brought up by a father who can barely be called that, the very tip of Denji's backstory iceberg would be enough to raise concerns for his well-being mentally. There are dozens of real-life studies and examples that demonstrate the negative effects of being raised by a single parent that is involved in their child's life. And even in these scenarios that vastly exceed Denji's overall quality of life, the results are horrifying. Trust issues, low self-esteem, severe attachment issues, moments of extreme anger, apathy, lack of proper social programming, and numerous other negative repercussions stem from this single issue of lacking a mother. If this, and only this, was the source of Denji's strange behavior, I would already have a plethora of information, both real and rooted in the world of Chainsaw Man, to pull from. However, this was only the very beginning of what is shown to be a long line of tragedy after tragedy. Sometime after the passing of his mother, his father dies, exposing him to the idea of death as a concept in general. Death is a very heavy fact of life for humans to deal with, even in adulthood. So for Denji to be burdened with his own father's death while he was still a child is just terrible. And the Yakuza promising to kill Denji if he didn't collect the equivalent of over $4,000 in a single day did not help the boy's mental state in the slightest. The only way for him to survive was to make a contract with Pochita and show his worth to the Yakuza, becoming a personal devil hunter for them and quite literally fighting to survive every day. Because of Pochita and his tenacity, Denji was able to make a living while still paying them off. Barely. In the process of taking on the danger of hunting down devils, Denji had to sell an eye, one of his nuts, and a kidney in an attempt to pay off his debt. Now this right here is particularly tragic to me because of what this lifestyle teaches Denji. Your only value in this world comes from what you can do for others. If you can't be useful, you're as good as dead. This outlook is reinforced by several characters in the series, but the start of this very toxic mindset originated from the Yakuza that Denji was forced to pay off. Day in and day out, Denji worked and worked and worked for someone else, being someone else's unwilling pet, and for what? A single slice of bread every day? A life so unfulfilling that most would despair, a hunger so intense that he can't even sleep peacefully, a heart disease that he couldn't afford to get treated? This lack of self-worth that subconsciously builds within Denji is only further boosted by the fact that he lacked a loving childhood and faces the repercussions of that which I mentioned earlier. His only, and I do mean only, saving grace during those years was Pochita, his pet devil who he cared for deeply. Pochita was someone who he could talk, laugh, eat, and even dream with. But even this was taken away from Denji by the Yakuza's own greed and dreams for themselves. Betraying and quite literally backstabbing both him and Pochita, Denji comes face to face with death. The same death that took his mother away. The same death that his father inflicted upon himself. The same death that Denji narrowly avoided years ago. As he predicted, it all finally caught up with him, and he was cut into pieces and thrown in the garbage. The zombie devil couldn't be bothered with Denji in the slightest. He was discarded with the same flippancy that I throw away my gum with. In the very first episode of the series, Denji dies in the same way that he lived his first life, like a damn dog. The only reason Denji is given a second chance at life is because of the kindness of Pochita, his one friend in this world. By literally becoming Denji's heart, Pochita allows his friend to live on and achieve his dream, mirroring the contract Denji made with Pochita all those years ago. Denji's duty, at this point, is to live on and achieve the dreams that Pochita loved hearing. In order to do that, he needs to kill the zombie devil and all of the Yakuza who he paid debt to. And so he does. He rips, shreds, and eviscerates any and everyone that gets in the way of his dream. All who oppose him face his chainsaw, and before long, it's over. It's all over. All that remains are the bodies and him. Finally, he is free from debt. Finally, he can start his life anew. Finally, he can begin his life as a true human being and not a pet. Unfortunately, it came at the cost of Pochita's life, but he still lives on within Denji's heart. He still lives on within Denji's mind. The streak of tragedy is over. Denji can take the first step to achieving his dream.
君、変わった匂いがするね。人でも悪魔でもない匂い。これ、君がやったの?
Before Denji can get started on his journey to happiness, Makima appears, or what I like to call her, the worst thing to ever happen to Denji. Makima is a textbook manipulator. She builds Denji up, giving him the friends, the family, the food that he couldn't have ever even dreamed of, before taking them all away and casting Denji back into the pits of hell. All of the actions Makima partakes in to manipulate Denji are disgusting. They're vile, they're evil. But in my opinion, the action that most genuinely gets under my skin, the action that I find deeply disturbing, is Makima's manipulative approach to dealing with Denji's need for intimacy. You see, what I think is so tragic about Denji's horniness in the story is the fact that it's only so exaggerated, so unregulated, so uncontrolled, because Denji lacks something. He lacks a major step in his personal development from his childhood due to the nature of his upbringing. The intimacy that I've been harping on and talking about throughout this video is that key factor. He had no father, he had no mother, he had no friends, he had no family. All he had was a single pet that he could share his dreams with, and even that disappeared from his life. He didn't have the ability to express feelings of camaraderie with a friend, or the loving embrace of a parent, or even the excitement and nervousness of pursuing a crush. Every experience that a young boy, a young child, needs to grow into a mature, kind-hearted person was lost on Denji. So we see this manifest in an overwhelming amount of lust for every woman that shows interest in him, or even just women at all. Initially, Denji literally can't distinguish between platonic and romantic emotions with women because he's never had to do that before. Before Makima's interference, Denji had never really come across a woman, much less several women who, at different points in the series, took advantage of Denji's lust to get what they want. Makima leads Denji by his nose the entire series. Power gets Denji to risk his life against the Bat Devil. Himeno motivates Denji to do his best against the Eternity Devil, and Rize manipulates Denji into trusting her and lowering his guard just so she can kill him. When you put his life into perspective, Denji is just what a 5-year-old boy would be if you gave them the hormones and desires of a 16-year-old. No proper social skills, no emotional regulation, no ability to mitigate reactions, just pure, dumb desire fueled by barrels and barrels of hormones that convince him to act strictly on his lustful impulses. His need for someone to truly care for him takes the form of physical desire because unlike me, you, or any other person who has the wherewithal to truly understand where their feelings are originating from, Denji doesn't. He just is a massive desire. Desire for a truly special relationship and desire to satisfy his lust. The conflating of these two ideas is why he's willing to die for his dreams of getting with Makima. It's the reason he fights not one, but 2 devils in order to touch power. Denji truly thinks in his heart that if he can just satisfy his carnal urges, he'd also be able to fill in the hole that is in his heart. It is only after being let down in his encounter with power, where Denji is confronted with the fact that pure, lustful indulgence isn't what he wants. It isn't what he needs. He goes to Makima, telling her that he's worried none of his dreams will be worth pursuing because of how let down he is. And what does Makima do in this vulnerable moment? She takes advantage of Denji's naivete again. She uses the fact that Denji likes her against him. She uses her appearance against him. And she almost gives Denji what he wants. Not just a surface level lustful release, but intimacy. True, genuine intimacy. The kind you can only share with someone that you care about. The kind you can only truly enjoy if you think that person cares about you. However, Makima doesn't tell Denji this. She allows him to remain ignorant to why her touch felt so much better than Power's, and she leaves him in the dark, forcing him to need her as a guiding light in this unfamiliar territory. If she keeps him attached to her, if she keeps him requiring her for happiness, then she can continue to manipulate and string him along, all for her own purposes, all for Chainsaw Man. It's painful to see this unfold in front of your eyes when you know what Makima's plan is, because you know just how close Denji is in reality to striking upon a deeper truth, and you know just how skillfully Makima is keeping it out of Denji's reach. Over time, despite Makima's actions, Denji is able to steadily work towards the idea that I'm talking about. Rather than just be attracted to any person who shows him interest, he attempts to be more discerning, refraining from sleeping with Himeno, deciding that they can act as friends, and even becoming more casual around Power, a character who he previously showed some sort of physical interest in, is growth for Denji's character. As chapters progress, Denji seems to develop mentally and socially in the way you would expect a child to over time. Not everyone that is attractive needs to be someone you lose your mind over. Not everyone who flirts with you is someone that you need to pursue. And for Denji, it became more possible to look at women in his life as friends. It became more possible for him to even fathom the idea of friends in the first place. Even though Himeno died and was a bump in the road of his growth, Denji's development was able to continue without much of a hitch. He was continuously growing and evolving as a person, leaving the realm of his early horniness and developing into a person that, while still socially and emotionally stunted, can function more normally within society. Time continues to move forward and Denji continues to grow into his own. The Bomb Devil arc, in my opinion, actually shows Denji making stride towards becoming someone that actually acts his age. Even though Denji fights internally on the matter of Rize versus Makima, I think his decision at the end of the Bomb Devil arc to go to the restaurant and wait to elope with her shows that in this arc, Denji chose intimacy first. He placed the experiences that he thought were genuine over any kind of horniness that he may have felt. Sure, Rize said that she only shared those moments with Denji to manipulate him, but Denji didn't believe that at all, and he truly prepared to leave everything behind, Makima included, all for her. If Makima had not interfered, if Rize was able to reach the cafe, I truly think that Denji as a character would be on track to be an entirely different person than we know him today. Rize never showing up is a major setback for Denji, but despite this, I think one of the biggest strides that he makes after this arc is deciding to stay and care for Power in her delicate mental state after their encounter with the Darkness Devil. He chooses to help Aki take care of Power over hanging out with Makima all by himself. Denji doesn't understand exactly why he does it, but I think I do. At some point in time, Denji had become so used to Power and Aki, so used to his friends, that he started to get a bit of an understanding, even if only subconsciously, of what he genuinely was looking for, what genuinely fulfilled him. More than being with Makima and being someone who is a slave to their own desires, he wanted the closeness that comes from relationships. Even though Denji is annoyed and grossed out by Power, he does come to care for her genuinely. In moments that would make Denji at the start of the series go crazy, he doesn't really care. He helps Power bathe because that is what she needs him to do, and when she asks him to suck her blood as a form of apology, he does so. Not because it's hot or that he's attracted to her, but because Power is his friend. With Aki, we see that these polar opposite personalities find common ground and become friends that truly care for one another. Aki is willing to give up his revenge for the safety of Power and Denji is able to put a pause on his pursuits for Makima in order to help Aki take care of Power. This is real, genuine growth on Denji's part, and I think that this is when he is most fulfilled as a person. Unfortunately, Makima snatches this all away from Denji in an instant, leaving him alone and hollowed out. With no support system besides Makima, he decides that it would just be easier to be a slave to his desires. It would be easier to just not think and let someone else decide his actions for him. He reverts back to the way he was in the very beginning of the series. He reverts back to being someone else's pet. What really makes this hurt even more for me, what Fujimoto did to twist the knife in the backs of all of his readers, was show us that Makima was doing this all for Chainsaw Man. Not Denji the human, but Chainsaw Man the devil. Makima never cared for Denji. She never loved him. She never even truly acknowledged him. Just like the Yakuza, she wanted Denji for what he could provide for her, not who he truly was on the inside. He realizes this, and by the end of the series, he's able to take Makima down and escape from the subservient attitude he had struggled with for so long. But what I really struggled with, what I still struggle with, is the fact that Denji was really close to becoming a more complete person who had friends and a life that he could live and enjoy, but Makima took that away from him. She stripped him of those people, and even though in the end she was defeated, the people she took are still gone. All that remains are the echoes of a lifestyle that Denji could have lived. All that remains is the tragedy of Denji's horniness.